Hello and welcome to this bite-sized video for the Digital Support Services T-Level, where we'll be exploring Assignment 2 of the Network Cabling Occupational Specialism. This session has been delivered by myself, Helen Scanlon, part of the Provider Development Team, and I'll be taking you through the assessment requirements, regulations and conditions. I'm joined by our Digital Sector Manager, James Lane, who will add his subject specialist knowledge and experience. Hello, James, and thank you for collaborating with me on this bite-sized recording.
Hi, Helen. Thanks for having me. Just to recap, my name is James Lane, Digital Sector Manager, as you've heard, and I've been here for a few years now, and part of my role is to help build qualifications just like this. So I've been part of the development. So I'm here to provide some technical knowledge and, of course, available to you, any of you listening, if you require additional support.
Thanks, James. Okay, let's get started. This OS assessment consists of 3 task-based assignments, and it's designed to assess 3 performance outcomes shown on the screen now, each of which indicates the knowledge and skills required to enable students to achieve threshold competence in the chosen occupational specialism. For each performance outcome, there will be a list of knowledge and skills. The knowledge statements identify what the students need to know, and the skills identify what the students need to demonstrate and perform. Some of this content will build on the core content that you delivered in Year 1. We'll be explaining the second OS assignment in this recording, and we'll be signposting you to the important documents and information on the NCFE website. The first of which are the key date schedule and the qualification-specific instructions for delivery, or QSID for short. At the end of this recording, we're going to share the relevant links, including the ones to these 2 documents. So taken from the tutor guidance and support documentation, the information we'll provide should help teachers to understand the requirements for the summative assessment activities for this specialism. There are important factors to consider for all these assessments, and you can see them on the screen now. For this assignment, please take note of the assessment requirements, and as we progress through the detail of each assessment task, we'll highlight any additional conditions that you need to be aware of. So, the occupational specialisms are assessed through a series of synoptic assignments, which have been designed to be as occupationally realistic as possible and are externally set by NCFE. This slide provides an overview of all the OS assessments for network cabling, along with their allowed timings for each assignment. This video will focus on assignment 2, and the tasks for this are about installing the cabling system, devising a test plan, and testing the system. So let's get started. Assignment 2 consists of 2 separate tasks that occur on a fixed date and time specified by NCFE. The dates for each of these tasks can be found in our key date schedule, and for the summer 2025 series, the date is shown on the screen now. If students have any access arrangements or reasonable adjustments, such as additional time for assessments, then providers should apply that internally and increase the task times by the relevant amount. The assessment material should only be made available to students during the scheduled session, so do take note of this and ensure you have the secure storage area ready for students' evidence. So students will work independently under supervised conditions. Internet access is not allowed, and the students will need to be provided with a digital camera to capture the evidence of their task completion. The list of required resources for this task is also included here, and it can be found in the tutor guidance on the NCFE website. James, is there anything specific you'd like to highlight here, please? And is there anything you'd like to add?
Only to maybe highlight what you've got in the middle already, just because it's come up a couple of questions in the past, that we have to have the students have access to a digital camera, not to use their mobile phones for the photos. That does cause some questions and some problems in the past. And also just to highlight something that we touched on in assignment 1 is that while internet access is not permitted, it's really what we're trying to restrict here is that the students are dependent upon their own knowledge and not researching anything. So if it's needed to provide something like word processing software, which is a requirement, then of course it would be available for that. But as always, the delivery team is available to provide that specific support. So reach out if you do need anything like that.
Lovely, thanks, James. Another thing I will add there, because the task says it's got a window of 24th of March to the 4th of April. Those 9 hours are flexible for you as a provider to have the correct resources available for your numbers of students. So long as those 9 hours are used within that window, you can arrange them, timetable them as you see fit, as what fits in with your students and what fits in with your available resources. So assignment 2 is worth a total of 44 marks, and marks are awarded against the skills and knowledge performance outcomes shown. Students will have a total of 9 hours to use information in the assignment brief to carry out the work required and demonstrate their knowledge and skills. There are 32 marks allocated for this first task, and as you can see, POs 1 and 2 are assessed. You can see which marks are allocated to each task. James, can I ask you to summarise a typical project brief and activities the students would be doing here, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the scenario that we're working on, we're going to repurpose the one we've also covered in assignment 1 in a separate video. So we're still working with the doctor's surgery. The same information will be made available to the students as well, in addition to a layout document, so a diagram of the schematics. So for task 1, we're asking them to install the cable system. So students will be provided with components like trunking, RJ45 connectors, crimping or a crone tool, switch and WAPs, for example, and these need to be installed appropriately. So we're really asking students to implement the plan from assignment 1 in essence, and they've got to think about not just plugging it in, but it's got to be configured correctly, and how all of those components can essentially collaborate to generate and to create the most appropriate network. And so that's the purpose of this task 1, installing the cable system.
Lovely, thanks, James. And as per our other Bitesize videos, just a summary here of the evidence required. James, is there anything in relation to the evidence required for this that you need to add or explain?
Excuse me. So the photos of the completed task are the main thing, and I think things to consider. That when we're looking at, for example, photos of the cables being terminated, it's not sufficient, or there certainly won't be full marks available, simply because the cables in this case are functioning. They need to be terminated correctly as per standard. So we've on the screen there, you can see that we're asking for the standard T568B. That specifies the actual color sequence, for example. That's what we're looking for. So it's got to be correct, safe and functional, even if technically it could still work. We're looking for adherence to standards. That's worth highlighting.
Brilliant, thank you for that insight. Okay, moving on to the second task for this assignment, related to devising a test plan and testing the cabling system. Students have got a total of 3 hours and 30 minutes to complete this task at a set date and time, and again, the summer 2025 dates can be seen on the screen now. These do change each year, so please do check the key date schedule we mentioned earlier. And then moving on to the assessment requirements, again, internet access is not allowed, and students will need to capture their evidence of the work using that digital camera. They'll also need access to software, and there are regulations regarding securing the room, as is shown on the screen now, and it can also be found in the tutor guidance documents. That's where this information's come from. And then finally, a summary of the resources needed is also shown on the screen. But I'd like to check back in with James for his subject specialist knowledge on this task as well, please.
So for task 2, this is we're looking at test plans. Things to consider, as similar to task 1, it's not just enough things to work. They have to show that they work, essentially. So devising that test plan and testing the cabling system, we're give them access, or the providers will give them access to a cable tester to test the cables. And again, we're looking for adherence to standards, not just functionality. They're going to fix anything that's wrong. If anything is discovered, they need to document those results. That's really important, and recommend anything that they think would improve the network security. So thinking about which components they've been given access to, it's really important that students think very carefully about how those have been implemented and how they can then subsequently be tested.
Lovely, thank you, James. So moving on to the task in more detail, the marks awarded and how they relate to performance outcomes can be seen on the screen now. James, again, anything you'd like to add for the brief? I know you spoke quite a bit about this task already.
No, I think I may have got ahead of myself a little bit. So no, I think the key point I've just mentioned is that they really need to think about how things can be tested. So I think sometimes, in fact, maybe if I just shift focus, you've mentioned in the past about things like chief examiner reports, and I appreciate we'll probably cover this in a few minutes anyway. But it's really important that you think about where previously students maybe have missed out on marks available to them. This is all poignant to this type of thing. So test plans is something that students can sometimes struggle with because they don't necessarily conceptualize the importance of them. And so I would really encourage students to slow down and just think about how you document every single element that you need to test, because ultimately that's how you're going to end up with this sort of a successful implementation, is to work methodically through it rather than sort of objectively throwing everything together and sort of hoping for the best and then fixing things on the fly. It's not the proactive approach we want to see. So slowing down and just thinking about what we're really emphasizing here about testing.
Brilliant, thank you, James. And as per normal, the evidence required can be seen on the screen now, but also that reminder about the students using a digital camera, not their mobile phones. So this last slide shows the section of the website where you'll find the support and sample assessment materials. This includes specimen assignment briefs, guides, standard exemplification materials or GSEMs, including sample student assignments showing what a pass and a distinction looks like for each of the assignments. And you'll also find previous live assessments and those really important chief examiner reports that James mentioned. We've also included the links to the current QSID and the key date schedule, which can also be found on the NCFE website. James, anything final before you'd like to add before we finish?
As always, I'm going to draw the attention to what you've already mentioned with the specimen assessment materials. So going through past papers, going through the initial, the blueprints, the initial ones we create, having that experience for students is going to be invaluable. And having the opportunity for you to, as teachers, to guide them through and highlight where they're perhaps missing out on marks will eventually help them to maximize that marking potential 100%.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so we've reached the end of this bite-sized session. We hope you found it useful and have a better understanding of this assignment. And please do whether see the other bite-sized videos that form the rest of this occupational specialism series. And there's a QR code on the screen now for you to please scan and give us some feedback on how useful this has been. Okay, thank you and goodbye.